Good. Okay, so I'm Kevin Monahan with the Small Business Development Center. We're out at the University of North Florida. We have offices all over. We cover an 18-county area, and we love working with artists, performers, you name it. And I think that's a real big part of what we do, and it's one of the reasons I align myself so much with the Cultural Council. So Tony asked me to come down and talk a little bit about the business of art. And so we've got this great dancer, director, choreographer here. We've got a poet, and we've got a photographer. And we're going to cover 10 questions. And the 10 questions, as we progress, you'll see, that would be very much the kind of thing that you would do if you were doing a pitch at OneSpark. You know, a mini business plan that would explain your business and how you go about doing it, and the why. Talk about branding, the why of what you do. So we're going to start. The first question is, what's my idea? What's the idea that I brought to the world as a business in the form of my being an artist? And so, Malcolm, I thought we'd start with you. How did you come up with the idea of doing what you're doing, photographer?
Well, when I got into the idea of doing street photography, and that's what I do, I'm a street photographer, and documenting my world and printing that out and showcasing it, people gravitated towards it and they even wanted to purchase it, which was humbling to me. So I said, well, maybe I can make a living off of selling this work. So it started right there, and I ended up finding a way to print them out and sell them, and people bought.
Pretty amazing that people almost forced you into business, right? It wasn't necessarily what you thought of.
Yeah, exactly. I just did it for a love of it, and I seen that niche that there's a way I am able to make some money, at least to pay some bills. Or just because people wanted to buy it, that was just amazing to me in general.
Yeah.
So once you see that idea, you just got to give it a shot and see what it can do for you.
Well, it's the kind of thing where, you know, if you don't do that, maybe you regret having not done that. You know, you take a job with a corporation or something like that, and you wish you had taken that risk when you were younger because you could, right?
Oh, yeah, exactly. It doesn't hurt to get your feet wet, you know. That's the number one thing. Once you get out into that world, just try it. Regret it? No, do not regret it. Just get your feet wet, try it out. If it doesn't work out, maybe it wasn't meant to be, but you can't say you didn't try. And that's number one goal in that.
Thanks, Malcolm. Why don't you pass that to Ebony? Ebony, why don't you talk about how your idea came to fruition?
With my art, it was never really an idea that I had. It was just something that I've done. When I was 4 years old, when I learned to read, all my books rhymed. And so I thought when you wrote things down, it's supposed to be a rhyme. That was the big idea. Started writing stories that rhymed when I was 4. And my parents, thank goodness, didn't stop me. And it became this thing. When it occurred to me that it could be a source of income was when I realized that other people enjoy the things that I wrote down about myself. I was always telling stories and using my imagination. And when people started asking me to share the things from my imagination, then I thought, okay, maybe this is something special that I have to offer. Yeah.
So you do. You have a whole body of work that you've brought to the world.
Yeah. Well, every artist, it's
Yes,
an
of course.
original, unique thing. Nobody can tell your story but you. Your perspective is your own. So that's the
Anna,
idea.
let's go with you, too, so we get a feel for all three of you here.
I was a dancer and an actor in New York, and I moved to Jacksonville and started a family. And I took a little break to focus on having a brand new family. And also, I really, really, really love bringing people together. And I found that I was constantly, when I was in New York and Los Angeles, I was constantly networking and always wanting to connect people. And it seemed like there are so many talented people like us right here in this room. And some of you have already done it, where you're like, let's put together this group, let's put together a show, let's, and I did that naturally. And I realized when I moved here, how do I stay connected to my community and keep the arts alive? And so I started a production company. And that helped me to keep the artistry in me moving, and also to continue my passion to bring people together and to create the work, because it seemed like I was always hunting for work. Like, where's the work? And I thought, well, why don't I just start the company and then it'll happen? So it was out of need.
Hold on to it, because I'm going to come back to you. So the next question I'm going to ask, we're assuming that we now all have a good idea that we've brought to the table to present to the world as artists. So the next one, and this is just as important, is what we call, what is our business model? And another way of saying business model is, how does our idea make money? And that's a really crucial step in trying to figure out who we are and what we're doing and how we're doing it and if we're doing it well. So how did you monetize your idea going forward?
Well, one of the ways, again, going back to my own sort of library of individuals I'd met or had long-term relationships with artistically, I decided to promote them and really passionately focusing on what brought people that I respected, what ignited their spirits. And some of them were just really fascinating subject matters, and it was really easy for me to want to sell them. And it was really easy for me to talk about somebody else and to promote them, and I could do it selflessly and enthusiastically. And also, by giving, I found that I received. And then people then said, well, I really need you to come direct this show, or I really need you to come choreograph it. I really need you to come and be involved in this too. And so I found there was this really beautiful reciprocity where we work together. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ebony.
The appraisal of my art was probably the most emotional and difficult thing that I've ever had to do in my life. I think there's so many of us in the room right now that give it away for free very often because it just kind of feels right to do it, and because a lot of people expect art to be free, right? There's a lot of favors that are given out by artists. And so putting a price to your work, a model, it was difficult for me because now I've put a dollar amount to something that I feel is like a very sacred and special part of myself, and it feels uncomfortable. So what I did was trust the numbers. I did research on artists that I admire and respect, whose work I would pay for. Good. And then I found out how much they charged. And then I comparatively took my body of work and put it next to theirs, and took the experience I offer and put it next to theirs, and then I adjusted the pricing accordingly. So that's the best thing I came up with.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, that's pretty much the same as that way I took towards it too. When I first got into dealing with it and selling prints, my uncle always told me, remember, freelance is not free. So I was like, okay, keep that in mind. But yeah, I looked and researched a lot of photographers that I admire and I've talked to. Just take a look at their price points, and also take a look at their engagement and who they're reaching out to, who is their fan base, how big a fan base they have. Because at that point, you can tell they can afford to do that. There's a reason why there are some photographs that cost $15,000, you know. There's also a reason why photographs cost $20. And once you find that and understanding that, you're able to sell, and your customers will grow and stay with you. So then when you get to that point where you go up in price because you're doing higher, more quality paper or more quality printer that you're printing with, it's more understandable to the consumer that they can buy that $100 print and so on and so forth. So,
yeah, let's talk about that pricing for just a second while we're there. I mean, we should expect and deserve to be paid for the product that we generate. I don't care whether you're in a band or you're doing photography or you dance or you do spoken word, you deserve to be paid, and paid well for it. So the idea of comparing yourself to other people who are doing something similar is a great idea. That was a good point, Ebony. The second is never discount your product. Never discount. Always up, never down. If you discount your product, people in Jacksonville can't wait to tell somebody else that they got it cheaper from you, that they talked you down a little bit. You know what that is then? That's your new price.
Yes, sir, right.
Because they told everyone how clever they are in bargaining with you. So that's something to watch out for, right?
Yeah, and to go on to that point, because boy, that's the truth. Like I tell like some younger photographers, and they ask me stuff like that, and like they're doing photo shoots and whatnot, I always tell them, you rather go in high, and they tell you that we can't come in at that budget, and you come in low, and they eat it up. Because you come in low, then you got to stay like that, and you wonder why you're not making no money and paying no car bills. Well, You should have came in high and you couldn't negotiate. So it's better for you to negotiate what you're dealing with as opposed to just having such a low number just because you're trying to get the sale. You have value as an artist. And once you understand that ideal, you'll appreciate what you got going on.
So, I work with a lot of people who will discount their product. They haven't even sold any of it yet, but they discount it because they want to get that first sale. And that's another bad idea because you're immediately discounting before the discount starts, right? So you want to be really careful with that. And also, I think you need to have the attitude, really, that you're basically saying, it doesn't matter whether you buy from me or not. Plenty of people are. Someone else will. I'm sorry you can't afford me. Right, dude. Yeah. Right?
But I'll be here when you can.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right. I'll check back with you tomorrow, So let's move on to the next thing. So that was you had the idea, and then the business model, right? How does our idea make money? The next, and this is critically important, and I think a lot of people assume that we've all thought this through, but we really need to know who our customer truly is. Who are they? Who's our customer? Malcolm, you got the mic. Go ahead.
Yeah, since I got the mic here. I think I guess what helped for me, I came in during the social media boom. So I kind of lucked up in a sense on that. So through Instagram, which is my biggest outlet, y'all probably know me on Instagram as Mount Jax. I am that guy, for the record. And through that, I post work and whatever get the most engagement. You'd be like, okay, they like this, and you probably post something you thought, as an artist, thought was great and doesn't get as big an engagement. So it's like, okay, well, is this good or is this not good? And sometimes I would put out prints, and the prints I didn't think would sell are the ones that sold the most. So I was like, okay, so let's see what they want. One, they want to see what my eyes see, for example, really, but it's just following the trend of whatever they enjoy most, and that's what you would use to print, or at least print most of. You still can print things that you see as an artist that you like, and be very proudful in that. But your customer is always going to tell you what's going to be that because they're the ones that know first.
Roxanne, why don't you talk a little bit about who your customer is?
Sure. I've worked with networks, cable networks, live industrials, corporations, done $250,000, $500,000 projects for live performances to sell products, and they need performers. Theaters, and thinking recently, I've done some film work also, so it's pretty varied, which is why I thought a production company made the most sense.
It does. It does. Go ahead, Ebony.
So my goal in my work is for my customer to be everyone. And what I mean by that is I'm a storyteller, so I sell experiences, right? And when I perform or when I put out literature, my goal is to create a once-in-a-lifetime experience for whoever encounters that work. Everyone wants to feel something, needs to feel or be inspired into something provocative. And so if I can create a provocative experience for a 4-year-old or a 93-year-old, then for me, I'm a successful artist in that I've achieved the universal language. So making sure that any demographic could appreciate, even if the goal is not for them to like it, the goal is for them to feel something, right? For them to remember it. That's the goal, to remember, to be remembered. If you can put up something that anyone would remember, then I think that you've made yourself very marketable, because people pay for that type of thing. So.
Malcolm, so the next question we're going to talk about, and let's go back and touch on customer again. I try to help clients figure out who truly, like we'll actually build an avatar, right, a fictional character that meets the criteria of what you're looking for in a client. And everybody's got different characteristics that they're looking for. You can tell your customers are all different from each other. But it may well be, my best customer is a college-educated female from Ponte Vedra with 2 kids and that kind of thing. If I was mowing lawns, that's where I'd be going. But But it could be very different depending on what you need. But it's something to think about in your mind. So who's my customer? And you could have more than one. And we'll be glad to sit down with you and help you figure that out. Because I think if you don't figure out who exactly your customer is, you're going to be spending money in the wrong areas to try to reach them. And that can be a real waste of marketing dollars. And how many of you have marketing dollars to burn? Not a lot of that out there, right? So, of course, after we talk about who our customers are, we're going to talk about who our competition is. And there's a lot of competition out there. And the reason I'm starting with Malcolm is there's a few photographers out there in the world. So talk about competition, not specifically Malcolm, but talk about the competitive environment for photography, right, art photography, and give us a little feel for how you differentiate yourself from everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's a photographer nowadays. If you have an iPhone, you are considered a photographer now. So, there, look at that, see? But I think as far as competition on that regard goes, it kind of goes back to value, how you value yourself as an artist. Again, it goes back again when I was talking about with the price point with different prints and stuff. There's a reason why it's $15,000. There's a reason why that print is $20. Yeah, besides the fact you're trying to sell, they feel that, no, this is worth this much. And if you got it, you're going to pay for it. So they're going to be looked at in higher regard. So if you're dealing with as far as shooting for brand campaigns, if they feel that they're worth that much, and the brand's going to say, well, if they're worth that much, then we might need to use them because they might have some great quality work, and vice versa. So what I try to do within my work is, one, stay true to my narrative and what I do and let people see what my story is. But also, I don't take no, what's the term I'm trying to use here? I'm trying to be proper. I don't take no slack. Like, I let it be known, I put my foot down, like, this is what it is, and I'm not changing that. And if you change that, you can go somebody else is going to come back to me. Doors open and close every day. So that's just the best way I take care of that, and the work shows for itself in the long run. So
That's right. Ebony?
It's gonna be ultimately who you share your space with. What I mean by that is, if I go to a poetry slam, and there are 12 other poets competing, well, that's my competition is not the poet. My competition really would be the judges, the 5 judges in the audience that are giving my poems numbers, right? I'm competing against them for their 10. They want to keep their 10, which is a perfect score. I want them to give it to me. That's my competition. If I'm at a poetry show and there are 5 other poets that are also co-headlining with me, because that's how they do us poets. They put us on tour together. And then we all have to share the stage and the audience. They're not my competition. My competition is every member of the audience that wants to hold on to their $20 that I want for my book. I want them to buy my book. And so I'm competing with them for the $20 in their pocket. That's how I've disciplined myself to see the situation. And it's kept me from altering my work in order to be like someone I may maybe admire or someone who seems to outsell me or outbook me. I'm fighting for that $20. I'm fighting for that 10. But yeah.
Roxanna?
I don't know if I have a helpful bit of advice for this, because I really don't pay. I'm not competition. There's always competition. And so I don't really give my attention to that. I feel like my attention needs to be on what I'm able to give. What am I able to do to maintain my own personal balance in order to wake up every day and say, I'm ready. And I'm ready to do this generously, and I'm ready to do this with honor and integrity and with all of my heart. And I've been in some really special situations where I am in awe of my competition that I've had at times. And, there's room for everybody. I really believe that. I really do. I really, really believe there's room for everybody. So I personally want to say, don't get caught up in the competition. It's going to be there. And there's an ebb and flow to all businesses. And if you get distracted by the competition too much and it starts taking you away from your strength, I don't think it's of much service to put your mind there, other than in the research that you do to build your business and how you want to structure it. And then when you've got all your facts, then I don't know. I say just put it on the side.
Yeah.
And let somebody else nudge you when you need to look that direction.
I think when you look at your competition, in several cases you admire your competition because you see them doing some interesting things. Sometimes they're doing things that you don't want to do. Sometimes they're doing things that you can't do, right? And so they're allowed to have that piece of the pie or do better, and that's all part of it too. But I think also you're saying that you concentrate mainly on the customer.
That's
and,
right.
And keep your eyes on that.
That's right.
And,
Because
and
I
my
want to
favorite
repeat
slogan
customer.
with that is when you think of customers and you're looking out there, you say, who has my money in their pockets? Right?
Yeah.
So that's good. So while we still have you here, we go on to, we talked about branding earlier. She did a great job, by the way. We talk about the idea of what is our message? What is the message I'm trying to get out to the community, self-defined community, of who I am and what I do? How do you address that? What do you say to people?
In terms of the work that I put out, it's important to me to put out, the word commercial is an interesting one, and I think really commercial can be whatever you choose it to be. So for me, I just want it to be able to sell. I want to be able to make a living off of it. But there are really interesting ways to do that and to stay totally true to your own voice. So I want to put commercially viable, provocative work into the world that challenges stereotypes and challenges an audience, that entertains an audience, and that elevates humanity and hope.
Good. Ebony?
It's my belief that love is the energy of creation. So the message that I attempt to exchange with people is that by creating and by collaboratively enjoying in creation, we are learning to love ourselves and each other. And so I try to make it about that, the work about that.
Go ahead, Malcolm. What are you trying to tell the world?
Well, I made it my job to document life in the 21st century as it is right now. Ooh, excuse me. I want to stay honest with what the environment is when I document it and show life as what it is and let it be as universal. It may be people that's going on when they look at my work and they can't, lost train of thought right there for a second, excuse me. They can't always see themselves exactly in that work, but they had a situation where they've been involved in that and they feel themselves in that work. When I'm able to do that and I'm able to make that connection, then I feel like we're there and they can agree with what I have going on. So I try to document what's going on in the world, what's going on in that work, and show it straightforward for what it is, you know, 'cause that's coming through from my eyesight. And sometimes it's honest, it's very gritty, it's very straightforward, but only I can able to do that, and that's what I try to make sure I cover off in my work.
Okay. So while you have the mic, why don't we move on also to what we call sales approach, but basically, where do we put this message so that our customers and the world that we're trying to reach can see it? How do you get the word out about what you do?
And that one, it comes with branding, and for me, it's social media. Me being a photographer, having a website is very important. And also Instagram is very big, it's very photo-based. So most in my work, I deal with Instagram and my website. And just post whatever I took that day or whatever I had in the archives and post and continue to build or just have that to keep the audience engaged with what I have going on. And then whenever I'm working on in the background, you know, it's a smoke and mirror.
Right.
So I can, when it's time, I can bring up, you know, I have a show coming out or I have a book, but it's not like, I wasn't prepared for that. No, you seen my work and you would already engage in my work. So whenever I have something going on, I have a better chance to bring you to that event or to that book release or vice, you know, whatever.
So I understand. In other words, you've got something out there, and you may have something else that you're developing right now, but the world doesn't need to hear about that. You want them concentrating on that.
They never know what I'm coming.
Yeah, that's good, Mel. That's good. Ebony? I know I looked you up on YouTube. It wasn't hard to find you.
Well, as far as like the work itself, like putting out the work, DJ Jazzy Jeff has a new album out called Chasing Goosebumps. And he has a song on there called Die Empty. And that's been like really my philosophy before he even said it. But now that he said it, I was like, yes, I have a cosign. Have a cosign. I will never have the time to sell everything I create. So I package the projects that I'm really passionate about, and then I create content with everything else. I don't think that applies to everyone. It may not be the best model for everyone, but as a writer, for me, it's helpful because I have plenty of stuff out there for people to discover. And then because it's quality work, when they go, oh, this is really good, and I just found this on Google or YouTube, and they say, oh, she has a book. Oh, she has a DVD series. Oh, there's a play. Oh, she's got a show coming. They're more prone to buy that. That's why even though people aren't buying music anymore, ticket sales are up for our concerts, because so much free music becomes available to where you actually have a solid fan base now. Even as an underground artist, you've got the ability to pack out a nightclub, sell out. I sold out 4 shows in Denver from Jacksonville. I was here. And I sold out 4 shows in Denver, and that's because I have so much content on the internet that now I create my own clientele, I create my own fan base, and I can just pop up anywhere I choose. It's actually how you go global, is just putting out the content. Die empty. That's my opinion, but yeah.
Social media is definitely important. I think also creating long-term lasting relationships that cross lines from business to artists in all different arenas. I've personally gotten a lot of work through the most unusual situations where I developed a rapport with somebody who, like somebody mentioned over there, that they'd the business loan, that she developed a relationship with someone from the business side of things and the bank, and it led to one thing, then the next, then the next. And in my experience, that is how I got most of my work, was that I developed long-term relationships with people who watched my career grow over time, and then they became my repeat customers. And as they needed to grow their businesses, it was an opportunity for me to do the same. And we had a relationship where I was able to take chances and they were able to make the investment. So I really do think, even in a time where social media is so huge, I really believe that one-on-one relationships are tremendously important, where people really get to know you and you get to know them and develop a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that some people hide behind social media, and others need to be going out and doing a little more what we call face-to-face marketing, meet people. It's that conversation you didn't have with somebody on that airplane. You could have said something, but you didn't. You put on the comedy tape and you pretended that you were asleep, but that might have led to something. So don't be afraid to talk to people. And if you really like what you're doing, you can't wait to talk about your business anyway, right? So I think it's an important aspect of what you're doing. So back to you, I think. In all of your businesses, you have some processes, things that happen. If I call you, what happens next, right? What kind of things help you out? What do you use to help yourself in business be bigger than maybe you really are? In other words, a contract has to be made.
Oh, good.
Everything.
Yeah. This is something that I really wanted to talk about. I implore you to protect your work, that before contracts and everything else, do the official copyright. I personally have had 3 circumstances where someone violated a copyright agreement, and one of them was for $100. I licensed my work for $100, and somebody decided they were going to use it without permission, they were going to change it, and they were going to tour it. All they had to do is say, here's $100, and then guess what? They would have been able to do whatever they wanted in the whole wide world for a year, but they just didn't want to get, and that was my license. That was my, I'll give you the minimum, I'll do it just like the cheapest price because I wanted it to happen, and I had to sue them. How ugly is that? Because then it became integrity, like the integrity of the work. And so my heart went out to the young lady whose t-shirt got stolen. And because social media is so huge and we're all so excited of what we post all the time, remember, I'm not an expert in that area, but remember that some of that licensing and ownership then becomes very gray zone, if not out of your hands. So protect what's yours. But getting onto that, I think having your line item for an attorney is incredibly valuable. Someone who can, am I allowed to share anybody?
Sure.
I
Drop a
mean,
name.
there's a wonderful attorney. I'm sure there are many here. I just happen to know one. Her name is Carolyn Herman, and she is just like insanely passionate for artists, and will help you drop just the most beautiful basic work agreements. Get it in writing. Get it in writing. Even if you're going to choose to do it. I've had a lot of, I'm sorry, I feel like I'm talking too much.
I'll let you
but
know.
I feel like a lot of what I did to get off the ground was somebody once, I was to choreograph a tour for this band, and they were doing this huge Asian tour, and they wanted to pay me an insanely small amount of money, but I hadn't had a gig like that. And I was like, oh, what do I do? And I just was like, I'll accept it as an honorarium, or I will donate it, because it was such an insult. But I got a lot out of the experience. I got a contract, I got an incredible, great credits, and I got promotional materials that I needed, and I also got 4 more gigs out of it that paid the right way. So sometimes, that's a personal choice whether or not you want to make that kind of an investment. But I protected my work. That's what I wanted to get back to. So I'll let somebody else talk.
So, that's really an important part of that. The other thing is, no matter what you do, if you're working on a commission piece or something like that, make the client understand. Sit them down and say, let me tell you how I work. This is what's going to happen, and then this is going to happen, and then that's going to happen. It's on paper, and there are no surprises. You get a chance to look at it before we make the final cut or whatever it is, right? I mean, I think clearing that out can just change the whole relationship between yourself and your customer.
Can I just say one other thing about that?
Sure.
If you can't have that conversation and it's that uncomfortable, then it's probably not a job you want anyway.
Right.
And that is like such a great thing to remember, like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating and this feels horrible. You probably don't want to work with them. Just take that as a sign.
Protect your brand. That's one of the processes that I tirelessly go through anytime I'm offered for work. Protect your brand. Is this something that I would like my brand to be associated with? Your paperwork should include approval of marketing and promotional materials, of any footage or photographs that are going to be published. That should go in your agreements. It's about building your career off of every show or every opportunity that you have, paid and unpaid. So making sure that you're going to take something away for your portfolio of value from whatever it is you do. So for instance, if you are doing work and you're not charging, you should still send an invoice and then put on a discount item line. You're giving 100% discount to this organization. But that invoice, you should still send it, and it should be signed, and you should keep it on file. And if you're going to do free work, then you should ask for something like a letter of recommendation or a review, for them to write a review and post it to the website or something like that. Make sure that you are dealing in exchange and reciprocity. As artists, that's not a part of our regular process enough. We need that, because what it is we're messing up the market for all the young artists, all the young people who are inspired by what we do, that are coming up. They're not going to be able to make living wages because we do not have that set in stone that no matter what, I'm going to make sure I get a reciprocal exchange from this, even if it's just the value of having worked with an organization of this stature. Now I have a letter of support from the Haskell Corp, right? So maybe I offered something and, gratis for them, but now I have a letter of support from them that I could use to get a grant. Does that make sense?
Yep.
But that's me. That's my spiel.
How about you, Malcolm?
Yeah, Roxanna Ebony touched it right on the head. Definitely protect your brand. At least once a year on Instagram, I have like 2 or 3 people that would take my image and they would post it as their image, and then I have like 100 people say, "Hey, this is Malcolm's image, yada yada yada," and they'll like Photoshop and change it all the way around. Like it was a image happened like a year or two ago, where I just took a picture of a tree and it was like a reflection on the water, and I came back and found like somebody in Argentina took a picture and put themselves on the tree branch. And I just laughed and I said, "Man, it's cool, man. I understand." But definitely be very, definitely be very protective of your brand because it's your identity, you know. And even with who you're working with and clients, when you get into freelance work, and also when you're dealing with invoices, be very, very detailed in those invoices and proposals. Because one mishap you come back looking surprised, and it's like, well, that's what you wrote down. You didn't mention that. And you have to be very, very detailed when you're doing these things, especially when you're dealing with bigger brands, because they look at the tiniest thing can make a change.
Yeah. Malcolm, while you have the mic, of course, we've been talking about invoices and contracts. You know, we're really getting into paper here now. Do you keep books? How do you manage your money?
Yes, I do. I do it old school because my father, so I do it down on paper and everything. I check my expenses. I keep a notebook with proposals that I've written, old invoices, if they were free or if they were charged. I even write down licensing agreements that I've made and keep up with that stuff by the year, because sometimes your prices change, either when you're doing, you know, freelance work or just for whenever your prints go up. And just try to keep all that stuff when you so when you come back, when you're dealing with a client of a certain stature, you have a better understanding of how to approach them. Because you come in there and you go with a brand, the biggest brand you probably ever worked with, and you come in there, again, going back with the lowballing part, and you like, wait, let me go back. Okay, I charge this much for expenses. All right, let me add this in. And then it goes back to the details in the invoice, because it will come up and you're going to be short. And it's like, why am I short? And it's like, well, you didn't mention you needed gas. It's like, well, yeah. So be very, very detailed in your invoices and your proposals when you send these out to these companies when you're doing freelance work.
Good point. Ebony?
QuickBooks. It's simple. It's easy. It's your friend.
No, that's good.
I second Ebony. When my day job, I loved it because I think you opened by saying, if you're a dancer who does bookkeeping, and that's how I started in New York, and I hated it. I was so ashamed to be a freelance bookkeeper that just came to me. But it gave me inside access. I was a bookkeeper for TV directors, for so many photographers, for architects. And I loved it because I got to learn how their lives worked, and I got to learn how afraid they were of money. Even if they were making $500,000, you know, a lot of money, they just still didn't pay their own checks. They were still there 2 weeks later. So I definitely do it by hand and QuickBooks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think also you start paying more attention when it's actually your money
Yes.
and not somebody else's. Right? It gets a little more exciting when
Yeah.
it's a... So final question for you guys, and we'll start with you, Roxanna. How do you measure success in your business?
In my business. Well, if you can, depends. But I'd like to say if I can pay the bills very steady, you know. I mean, I have kind of a pretty low mark for that, and then everything else is just is good.
Ebony?
Do I feel good about the work that I'm doing? Do I feel good about what happens when I create work, when I put work into the community? Do I feel good about the results of that work? If the answer is yes, then ultimately the financial aspect is already taken care of, because, you know, if I'm hungry, I don't feel so good, right? If I'm homeless, I don't feel so good. So if I can say, yes, I feel good about this, then for me, that's success.
Yeah. Malcolm?
Well, for me, it's very, very small. It's just being able to influence somebody. Being able to influence somebody who wants to get into this industry and they didn't have no gatekeeper or nobody that they could look to directly, and they come and look at my work and talk to me in person, and they would say, hey, you inspire me to get into this and to see this as a way to make money. That's what gets me up. because I still do photography for free because that's what I do. That's what keeps me up at night. When I go into the grave, I will have a camera in my hand. So just being able to do that, everything else comes along with that. If they are already inspired by your work, that's already, on the other end, that's a customer. So as long as I'm able to inspire somebody, all I need.
Malcolm, you mentioned your dad at one point. Is it he, or was there anybody else in your life that was kind of a business mentor to you?
Yeah, my dad, because we also have a family business that we run and operate. So through that part, that's what helped me out with the bookkeeping and a lot of the business stuff, and a lot of back end scenarios. Because a lot, artists, we're just artists. We're not thinking about QuickBooks and all this stuff. We're just thinking about creating. So luckily for me, being into that in the industry, I'm able to, oh, wait, I need to see an invoice for this because, this is going to come back. Uncle Sam going to knock on the door. So I want Uncle Sam knocking on my door. So him and I had another, one of his other business partners that always looked out for me and said, just always keep track of something. And I still do it the old school way just because I like print. I like being able to see the intangibles. I had computers crashing, so I just want to have them on document.
Ebony? Anybody mentor you in business?
Keith Rogers, the founder of Black on Black Rhyme International, when I was 18. I got into Black on Black Rhyme, and then he wouldn't take me on tour because I didn't have anything to sell. He was like, you don't have product. Product? What are you talking about? I'm a poet. That's my product. I'm going to get up here. I'm going to say these things, and people are going to have a good time. How could you not take me? I'm the young phenom. What's up? No, you can't go on tour until you have something to sell. I don't care if it's a T-shirt. You have to sell something. And that taught me so much about packaging myself and really taking myself seriously as an artist. Yes. So I created my first album because I wanted to get on the road so bad, but he's right about sending people away empty-handed. It wasn't about making money. It was about me creating this situation where I'm meeting a room full of strangers. We have this meaningful interaction, and then I have nothing to leave them with. People want to be left with something. They want to have that experience. So that was the best thing anybody could have taught me about business. Yeah.
Very good. Roxanna?
A woman named Elizabeth Hutchins who trained me in bookkeeping, and she also happened to head a huge children's foundation in New York City.
Nice. I'm going to open it up to the audience. Anybody want to ask these guys a question?
I like Google. Well, I'm Malcolm Jackson, but you can look me up as Malcolm Jax, MALC space JAX. And you can go to my website, malcjax.com, all one word, and then Instagram if anybody uses that stuff. It's at malcjax. I've worked with some brands in New York, Cinematic Music Group out of New York City, Billionaire Boys Club, which is Pharrell Williams clothing brands. If anybody knows who Pharrell Williams is, I've worked with them. I've worked with Swisher International. I did a small campaign with Gap. I was just a part of the Jacksposition with Jenna. And Jerry Audrey, who's formerly the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh, yeah, part of that. I was a part of the Jacksposition project, which was the billboards that you probably saw, photographs all around Jacksonville. Which I still have one billboard up, actually, on MLK Parkway. It's still up. I passed by it this morning. Where they wanted to take artists and you know how you pass by a billboard, you see a Geico ad all the time, and then one day you pass by and there's a picture of, I had a picture of some gold teeth on Edgewood, and Edgewood and Commonwealth, right, Jenna? Yeah, on Edgewood and Commonwealth, and you come back and you're like, whoa, wait, that's not a Geico ad, what is that? And it brought interest into that, and through that, I'm able to get a lot of clients. That's how I met Swisher. Because they're like, hey, we saw your billboard. We're gonna come work on the campaign and do some rebranding for us. It's like, well, oh, look at that. So that's just a little bit of more insight on me. Anything else?
Ebony, why don't you give the folks your contact information?
Ebony-Payne-English.com. My name is EBONYPAYNE-ENGLISH. You can find me by that same name on Facebook. and on YouTube. And on Instagram and Twitter, it's at Ebony Oshun, EBONYOSHUN. And
That's good.
if you can't find me like that, then I'm not trying to be found.
Right. Roxanna, go ahead.
Roxanna with an A, roxannalewis.com. Same Facebook, Roxanna Lewis. And I really hope that you all reach out. We can't get around this room quickly enough, and I would really love to meet anybody and everybody. And I'm sure these guys feel the same way, and I'm sure you all feel the same way. So please do.
So give it up, ladies and gentlemen, for Malcolm, Ebony, and Roxanna. And thank you all very much. Great job.
Weren't they fantastic? Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
My pleasure.
And you are fantastic. Tony and I were just talking on the other side of the room that it is, you've been here a long time, and you are still here, and you are still engaged and passionate and with us. So now is the most important part. Ebony said something in her comments about wanting to hear from people. What can we learn from you to continue experiences like this, to keep you strong, to keep you supported? We have an evaluation that is on the table, and we're going to ask you to fill that out while you're here, and then we want to open this up for discussion, because we want to know what can we do in the future that would be helpful to you. So I'm going to ask you to, Patrick filled out, Patrick, you sent everyone the, Patrick.
Yeah, so we only have a limited copy here, but we also emailed a version to everybody. We did it through the program that you registered with, so it may have gone to your spam filter, but check because the title was Post-Symposium Survey, and I think it's only like 10 questions, so if you could fill it out, that would be fantastic.
All right, and we're going to ask you to fill this out right now. So if you can take a moment, fill out the evaluations on the table or go online. We're going to give you just as long as it takes, and then we want to open this up. So take a breather. Up here, Patrick. We'd love for you to do this on your phones, but if that's uncomfortable, feel free. Just please make sure we get these. Leave them in the middle of the table.